Welcome. Welcome, Dave. We were just going live before we went live, talking about what's audacious about you and what's audacious about being here. But we've got the music in the background, which is it's the first for me. I just discovered this in Restream. I've never used it, so that's audacious, just pressing a button and seeing what's happening. But it just seemed natural to have some sort of music background when I'm talking to Disco Dave and the music guru. So it's a pleasure to have you here, and I can't wait to have fun with you.
Yay!
Yay! And it's we're saying it's a total fun celebration, obviously making it serious and practical because we are coaches, but in a playful way. So before we do some of that, just introduce yourself with something audacious.
So I am Disco Dave, and I am that way intentionally. For me, just even being Disco Dave and telling the world that I am Disco Dave feels audacious, because up until a few years ago, it was a nickname that I had, but I never used it professionally in the context of coaching. And then I got an incredible experience with someone that we both know, Mr. Richard Wynn, as part of his 2021 intensive. And through that experience, felt like I'd really reconnected with the whole me, because at that point I was presenting myself to the world as David Wynn, a version of myself that I thought I needed to be in order to be successful. But through that experience, realized that that was just a bullshit. It was a story that I was telling myself, and actually being Disco Dave means so much more than just the words and the name that I discovered following that. And one of the coolest parts of that is learning that the word disco is Latin for I learn, I practice, I study, I teach, which I had no clue, and most people don't. But when you said the word discover, it's like, yeah, the word discover is Latin for I learn truth, the verb meaning truth. So yeah, just even being this way feels audacious to me, showing up in corporate settings with my clients, with business owners, with their teams, wearing my disco t-shirt. Like, this is audacious for me. This is me saying, no, this is who I am. And you know what? You've got permission to be who you really are as well.
I love that. And actually that's what, for me, I'm so passionate about bringing what's unique in every single one of us. And definitely, the sort of Disco Dave, that identity, it's brilliant to get to know it a bit more. So I'm curious. I mean, my mission is to really redefine audacity in its positive form, because most people still associate it with a negative connotation. And for me, it is it's an ambivalent meaning. And I want to spread the love and use it positively, channel the positive side of it.
Yes.
Yay. So I've got those 3 pillars of courage and care and non-conformity. So that's how I'm playing with it. Which is the one that you think, right now resonates most with you, and we can explore that in your world?
You know what? The word care just brought to mind an idea that I love, which is to care so much that you don't care. And I think especially in coaching and leadership, to care so much about the person in front of you, to care so much about the people you spend time with and the people that you serve, that you don't care if you're liked. You don't care if they like what you say. You're there to be who they need you to them. I always struggle to explain this bit. You need to be who they need you to be.
Yes.
That makes sense. So caring so much that, and I said this even recently with some groups of leaders that I've been coaching, I'm there to be of service. I'm there to be kind, not be nice. I'm there to show you something. So it doesn't matter. I'm not attached to being right or wrong. I'm not attached to any form of judgment around anything when it comes to being the person that you need me to be, and therefore then say the things that you need me to say. I think
Yes.
it's one of his favorite phrases as well.
Yeah, and actually, it's a big part of the book. For me, I do explicitly talk about that piece, which is when you care so much about, well, a mission, you care so much about someone or something that you don't care about what other people think. Because as humans, we are so conditioned to care about people's judgments, and that's what stops us from doing a lot of the things that we feel passionate about. And it's sometimes, again, in the coaching language, you and I will know it's not what someone wants, it's what someone needs. But how do you then judge, what is it? And it's owning who we are. Because the moment we are who we are, the rest will follow.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. That's the key, that you really care about, well, yeah, as I said, one of those pillars, whichever one it is, you care about mission, you care about others, you care, and even self. I mean, that's the one thing we forget a lot about, caring about ourselves in that, and we put that last, so we can choose which one it is that we then don't care about people's judgments, which is hard.
It is. And you've just reminded me of a huge part of how I experienced last year, that I had been used to just working hard and then getting to a point where I burnt out a bit and I needed to take a break. And last year for me, I call it my year of resting hard, or learning how to rest well, and trusting, therefore, then that the world's not going to fall apart when you do take that time, you do take care of yourself. And because then you're modeling it for other people, you're taking a stand for taking care. I now have this phrase, it's a declaration I have for myself, which is, because I'm a sprinter by nature, I can go fast physically, mentally, creatively, and I have to be very conscious about how I speak as well, because I can speak very quickly, get very excited. That's part of my nature, my energy. So I have this idea that I'm a sprinter. I work well, I rest well, I play well, I fuel well. The emphasis is on being well so that I can be of service. So I can serve myself in service of others. And when you were speaking about ownership, curiosity is where it begins, because you mentioned curiosity. Is that one of your pillars?
Well, no, it's not. It's courage, care, and non-conformity. But curiosity is always the underlaying, the foundation.
Exactly. So ownership comes through curiosity, because you have to be willing to be curious and get to know yourself. Ownership comes then after that. You have to be willing to take that look and care about yourself enough to want to understand yourself, so that you can take ownership of what you want, who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to create, what impact that you want to have. And that's the work I love to do. I'm sure you're the same. I don't think we can do this work without being really, really deeply curious, firstly about ourselves, but also about other people, to want to get to know the nuances of their experience, because we won't ever know someone beyond the ideas that we have about them. So we need to create those ideas through being curious. But yeah, taking ownership, that's at the base of who I am and how I show up and what I'm creating, I guess, as an experience, is looking to another idea that I hold for myself is I say that I am the DJ of my own life. I playfully and powerfully create my experience. I'm in charge, not in control, and I create other DJs. And that's my way of speaking to myself the truth of what I do, what my work is It's understanding that my experience is created and I'm supporting other people to take ownership and realize that they have that power as well.
And I love that. But actually, I forgot that what you and I do share, what we've got in common is being sprinters. I totally forgot about that. So because,
Yeah.
and actually being sprinting through life, but I was a sprinter. I was 100 meters, qualifier in the national championship of athletics when I was a child. So I sprinted through life, and I love what you just said about, because you originally said rest hard. So, it's about work hard, play hard. And then you added this third dimension of rest hard. But then you replaced the hard with the well, which is fascinating because, again, the hard has got that hardship to it. Whereas the well, it is a lot lighter. So, learning to work well, learning to play well, as you said, and rest well. I really love that perspective, because languaging is also incredibly important, as we know. I love to reframe. That's part of my coaching practice, reframing everything into, the positive spin, as and with good intentions and for, good reasons. But I'd love to, in that spirit of the wellness, love to explore, how does music fit into all of that for you? I've got that curiosity.
Well, I love that you picked up on that because how I described that was really a very succinct way to explain the experience I had, because it felt hard to go and take a lot more rest than I would typically allow myself to have. So that was the hard part of it. And it's like, and you may resonate with this, I'm someone who tends to, I need to go to the extremes to then have an experience and then integrate by coming back to some sort of middle ground. Yeah. and that middle ground for me was wellness. Just with that. And music, wow, how long have we got? Music is music is wonderful. Music is it's.
How do you use it? Just give us a practical example. How would you, I know I've experienced some of your magic and some of your, zone of genius, but, because it's got it could go really deep and it can see transformation in a very short period of time, actually.
Yeah, thank you for that framing. So how I tend to use music is as a tool for helping people to access where they are limiting themselves and their thinking and their feeling in the present moment. It's probably the most succinct way that I can describe that. Music I use as a tool for helping people heal, for helping people move beyond their limitations, to expand in their mind and in their heart, to feel more, especially to feel more, because in traditional coaching, we tend to speak to the mind through asking questions, whereas music as a tool can help us bypass that and the resistance that's present up here and get into more of a felt space, which can feel very uncomfortable. But as it's been described to me, music becomes something safe to hold on to, especially when, because typically I'm using other people's music. I'm inviting people into an experience where I'm inviting, as you did, to go and connect with songs that mean something to you because they connect to some kind of past experience. And then through that, we just sit and we explore together, and it creates this beautiful, natural exploration and conversation and adventure for me, where we can step into this unknown space. And almost always it creates something really magical, some sort of letting go or healing or new insight, or something occurs that allows a person to see maybe part of their own story in a different way. a reframe of a story that they've held on to for a long time, and it's been holding them back, it's been weighing them down. And also I use music with visualization through creating, because our mind doesn't know the difference between an imagined reality and the physical reality. So to use music as a way to anchor us into an experience where we imagine ourselves at a point in time where we don't feel limited anymore, because the mind is amazing. We can be so expansive when we access that part of ourselves. And as an experience, it's necessary to have some form of release before that, so that you're more open to then imagining a possibility of a future that you could step into. And I appreciate, for anyone listening, this might sound a little bit esoteric and a bit difficult to wrap your head around, but I've got my own podcast, which is creating an experience for people to understand this in more real terms. To make it more real, I've had people express and share with me emotions that they've denied and not felt for decades. I remember one person in particular who, through the experience, she went back to when she was 12 and used to swim competitively, and then remembered something her coach used to say to her, which she held as an idea, and it kept her small for about 25 years, and she'd completely forgotten that. And all of a sudden she had this release and was realizing, wow, I don't have to hold on to that anymore. I can be who I want. I can be a different version of me. I can be a more expansive version of me. And there are many, many more examples that I could give of that. But yeah, music is a wonderful catalyst for state change. Mm-hmm. When we listen to music, it's going to make us feel the way it's going to make us feel. We can't really do anything about it. We listen to a song and it's like we're there. And that's the magic of it. It's automatic. It takes us to these places. And that's how I realized that I can use music, is to be this automatic tool that really supports people at a deep, profound level and enables then that person to create a new possibility for themselves.
Yes. And actually, to make it a bit sort of practical, because I have experienced that experience with you, and we all have, everybody, loves music in one way or another, whatever genre they do. And so it's that association with, and the way I experienced the work is like choosing a song that represents something. You go back into the past or the present, and we will all have one of these, even if you don't listen to music every day or that often. I mean, for someone like me, again, just accessing it and then giving that access to the future. What song would that be? In terms of dreaming big. So you could go all of this different path. As you said, you are accessing different intelligences, as I call them. They're not just the mind, but certainly the heart.
Yeah, and beyond accessing, it's about activating.
True.
Activating an energy that we all have inside of us that is there, that life force. Having a song or a playlist that gets us into that higher state where we are being our best. We are being our best version of ourselves. I kind of hate that term, but like just being energetically at a higher level, so we can perform at a higher level. We can create more. We can create more impact, but also to use music to be able to dial that up and down as well. And through practice, being able to adjust ourselves in that way through ownership, being an owner of our body, owner of our energy and our state. And music is such a wonderful tool to be able to activate that. If we're maybe not as confident, for example, not as confident in being able to manage our state and our ability to be a more expansive version of ourselves, shall we say?
Yes, and it actually, I mean, it's interesting because one of my intention this year has been to be, you know, joyful and playful. And music is it's just I also even chose with my coach to just dance, you know, just choose whenever you feel down. He's like, okay, just get up and dance for 2 minutes. And that activation, as you call it, is just you sort of activate something in you. And yeah, it's wonderful because it gives many, you know, breathing, stopping, moving, you know, all of those sort of things, and it just gets you out of your mind.
And beyond that, music connects us all.
Yes.
Like, as you said earlier, we all love music in one way or another. We all have a relationship with music that's our own, but through music, we can really create these beautiful moments and spaces of connection. And what does the world need more right now than connection? Space where we can come together, space where we can go beyond the ideas that we have about each other, our judgments, all that rubbish that keeps us separate, keeps us from connecting. Music is really the one constant that allows us to really come together and have a meaningful, beautiful experience beyond all of that.
And it's so, I mean, it's interesting because it's counterintuitive in the world where there is so much connection through the virtual connection. Or too much of that almost, you know, we need to disconnect from that to connect to ourselves. But I'd love to, I'm sort of aware that we are, you know, sprinters as we are, and we're sort of fast approaching, and I didn't want to finish the conversation without going into one of the audacious corners, which is the space. You know, that's an audacious dream of yours. So tell me, you know, I mean, we were talking about that space, which it's obviously the outer space, the inner space, all of that spaciousness. So what is that audacious dream? How does that look like for you?
I want to take individuals or groups into outer space for an experience, a coaching experience. I want to create that. This is, for me, the ultimate idea as far as my coaching practice and business goes, because to actually go into outer space, for me, that's the ultimate perspective shift on the physical plane. To be there, to have that overview effect, to have an experience where you see the earth in a way that you just can't when you're on the planet here, grounded. Be grounded up there in this beautiful experience of seeing the earth as it is, that can't not change a person. And now, because this is becoming more of a reality, this is becoming an accessible experience now. This is, for me, this is what I want to do. I love intimate, meaningful, high quality moments and experiences. That's what I want my whole life to be. Just a series of these incredible, meaningful moments, whether it's going in outer space or sitting with my daughters and playing and just being with them and everything else that's in between. And I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but that's what I'm aiming for. That's the ultimate for me.
And it's not the how, you know, actually it's my dear friend Rita who, you know, taught me this. It's not the how, it's the who. And what came to mind is, Dave, this is an outrageously audacious idea. Outrageously audacious to think. And yet, you know, to sort of create this experience in the outer space. But who do we know? You know, who? And, you know, of course, someone like Richard Branson, who was doing a lot of those sort of experiences, there will be someone else out there. And you could start small. I always say, let's start tiny Winnie. You go into one of those balloons first. And then you could do, you know, even that is taking you around the world, or somewhere, you know, and I'm sure there will be some amazing experience to be created with that intention in mind.
100%. And there are companies, I wasn't aware that there are companies that are using balloon technology to go into the stratosphere now. There's a company called Worldview in particular that I've got my eye on. I connected with the CEO and I sent him a message. I think it was about 6 to 8 months ago. I didn't get a response yet, but I'm gonna stay with it. But there are companies now that are creating this as an experience, and Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, I think, or I think the SpaceX version is a lot of money to do it. Whereas Worldview, and I think there are other companies now introducing this space tourism balloon technology trips that are about $50,000 per person. So it's still a lot of money, but way more accessible than $500,000
Totally.
for going out and orbiting. But yeah, like that's what I've got in mind. Like to just create that, go to these places. Oh, it excites me so much.
I can see that. I can feel that. And actually, what I love when you were saying it's like 6 to 8 months ago, sending it to the CEO of Worldview. Well, it's about time you do it again. And if not, just go and read that chapter, my chapter on how many no's do you just have to, accept, or, all that rejection is the 1,000 no's for the hell yes, for the huge yes comes. And it always, for me, everything happens to people anyway. And there's sort of serendipity. If it's not that, it's going to be in the orbit of manifestation. There's going to be something else which will come. So, yes. It's exciting.
Can I quote Jim Carrey?
Why not?
I saw this quote a few months ago, and I now have this as a declaration of mine. I speak this to myself every day, and it's the Jim Carrey quote is, "Something magical is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. If there is no way in, a new way will be created."
Fabulous. Totally. I mean, it's not about the how. It's about, as we know, the setting that intention, and then detaching. And it's interesting. I mean, I think for me, you and I were talking before, but this is I'm going into my second week from when my book was launched on the 22nd. And I mean, not in a million years of wildest dreams. I put is my publisher just sent me a picture of my book last week. In Heathrow Airport here in the UK, in between two titans, the Stephen Covey and Chris Voss, which, for me, I quote them in my book. I quote them in all of my coaching practice. And here I was, my book in between. You just never know. And again, talking about serendipities and the way, don't worry about the how. Again, a client of mine sent me something this morning, which I posted about my book being in Singapore, again, between two, well, actually, again, sort of big leadership gurus, but they're also friends, because it's Michael Anderson and James Ashton, and my book is in between them. And it's like, hey, don't worry about the how. It will happen if it's meant to happen, of course. Yeah, exactly. The magic dust.
It's happening.
It's happening already. It's happening already. Absolutely. So, but tell me, in terms of, as we've got a couple of minutes left, if people wanted to reach out to you, how will they do that?
So on LinkedIn, or my website is discodavewynn.com. Those are the easiest places to find me.
Fabulous. Yeah, the easiest. And then I suppose in terms of, if we were to give the listeners something practical, like one audacious advice, what will that be?
Oh. Give yourself 30 minutes space each week to allow yourself to think about what you really want.
I love that. 30 minutes a week to allow yourself to think what you really want. And you just reminded me, as I had a conversation this morning with someone, my chapter, the acknowledgement chapter, which is actually my second A, I've got 8 A's. It's about exactly that. What do you want? Which is the most difficult question to answer in life, definitely in coaching. What do you want? Because we usually want what other people want for us.
And with that, you could do an exercise of writing a list of 100 things. I did this a few years ago, and it was one of the most powerful exercises I've ever done. At the same time, I realized that it'll be useful to connect with how I keep what I want out. And for me, I realized I kept the emotion anger out. So I wrote a complimentary list, which was, it pisses me off that. just as a way to try on that emotion in a safe way, in a safe container, and trust that I can connect to my desire, and trust that I can connect to my anger and use it usefully, safely.
I love that. I love that. So that's a great sort of call to action. And of course, I'm outrageously going to make the call to action for anybody who's listening to now buy my book on Amazon and all of this.
Yay, do it.
So they're there, you know, because it's out there. And yeah, I really want to share the love. So, and thank you. It's been definitely fun, joyful to spend these 30 minutes with you, Dave.
Oh, as always, thank you. I love doing stuff like this. I love spending time with you. You're amazing.
So are you, and thank you. Well, let's just, you know, we'll go and dance after this. I'll put the music on. And then I would love to reconnect and tell me, you know, how that conversation or others happen in terms of space.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.